And welcome back to another edition of the Golf Intervention Podcast. I'm excited to be on tonight. If you're just listening to us for the first time, I want to tell you about who we are. People drop into this show. This might be your first time listening. We are two golf professionals. We teach golf, and we are utterly dedicated to your process of improvement. We have one and only goal, and the people that listen to this show will tell you we ask nothing, and all we do is say we want to help you get better at golf. Rob Fales, my co-host. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Long time no see.
I mean, it's been a couple days now, so Robbie and I don't work together, although we do on this podcast, but day to day. I teach at the Country Club of Virginia. I'm the director of golf instruction, been there into my 18th season now. Robbie is the director of player development at Boar's Head, at Birdwood, at UVA in Charlottesville. What a title. He is a world famous golf instructor, although he's afraid to admit it. And he came out the other day to teach some AimPoint clinics at the Country Club of Virginia. And we had 3 90-minute clinics, absolutely phenomenal. Rob Fales is a certified AimPoint instructor. We've had Mark Sweeney on the show, so if you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to it. And it was a great day of learning. I will have some feedback from you, Robbie. I've talked to a few people, and they loved it. Loved it.
Awesome.
And we on this show try to have on every episode what we call an epiphany moment. That's our goal. Like we want the listener to at least one point in the show go, whoa, well I got to think about that, right? There were so many epiphany moments on Sunday at the Country Club with green reading. And the thing that really shocks me every time, and I don't know if this is like a common, they teach you this in AimPoint school or whatever, but Robbie does this thing where he gives each participant a coin right at the beginning. It's the first thing we do. And he has a putt that he and I have, picked out early on. Cherry picked it. And it was a downhill slightly. I would say 1% down maybe.
Yeah.
It was a 4% right to left. Mm-hmm. Was it 4? It was 4%. 4% right to left. Mm-hmm. And it was about 10 feet, 11 feet. Wasn't it 10 or 11? Yeah, you took 3 steps and then
it's a hard putt. Yeah.
So downhill, right to left, slightly downhill, 4%. Now, if you don't know what that means, if you're not an AimPoint person, 4% is about as steep of a slope as a hole will be cut around the hole. Typically, 4 is pretty severe. So he gives everyone a coin and he says, "I want you to walk up and read this putt from every angle that you would, like you currently do it, not using your feet, but using your current eye method of reading putts, and then place your coin relative to the hole on the ground where you think you would aim to get this putt to go in." And I think out of the 28 or 29 people that came. Mm-hmm. I think 2 of them placed it in a place so you could actually hit it on a speed that you could make the putt.
And it'd be pretty fast speed too.
You'd have to hammer it. But 2 of them, and the general consensus, so if you looked at the center of the dispersion pattern, if you want to call it the group thought was typically about a cup to a cup and a half to the right of the hole. Yeah. And this putt broke 2 feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was all at 2 feet. I said I said 18 inches. I made a little social media post in a forum that you and I are in.
Yeah, that was about right.
And I said 18 inches, but I bet it was more like 2 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was literally 2 people. I'm going to say this again, out of 28. And by the way, this was not beginner golfers. No. We had highly competitive golfers on this kind of state amateur level. Mm-hmm. We had competitive junior golfers. We had a bunch of, I would say the cross section of this was probably 8 to 12 handicappers, okay? And then a few beginners. And 2 people out of 28 put their coin in a place where it was actually a makeable putt on any speed. Mm-hmm. That's crazy to me,
Pretty
right?
insane, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, here's mind-blowing part number 2. And I swear to you, I do not have an affiliation with AimPoint. I'm just telling you, okay? We then spent about 20 minutes, maybe, on just having them stand on predetermined locations around the green where they would find 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4% slope under their feet, right? And then you did a really good job. You shuffled them through, and they would do 0, 0, 2, 4, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they went backwards and forwards, and it was maybe 15 or 20 minutes. They came back, and every group read it as a 3%. This was before they knew it. So they started off with probably less than a 1% break, really, maybe a 1. And they group think after 15 minutes turn it into a 3, which you could make it at a 3.
Oh, yeah.
3 was makeable. You could make it at a 3. So the epiphany moment is this. People have no idea how poorly they read greens.
Yep.
I'm going to say it again. People have no idea how poorly they read greens. And in putting, if you don't have a baseline for what you actually know the putt is supposed to do, and then you hit a putt and it doesn't go in, or it doesn't go close to going in, all you can do is make an emotional judgment about how you did because you have no idea why you missed it. And, or worse, you actually blame the wrong thing. Now we've got problems. So the epiphany moment in that clinic to me is that moment every time it blows their mind, right? It blows my mind every time I see it. We had one person plumb bob. Did you see that? And,
Yes.
and this is the God's honest truth. You ready? The only person out of 29 that actually thought the putt broke the other way
Oh, that was the same guy?
was the one that plumb bobbed.
No, I didn't connect the dots there. That is unbelievable. Because I did remember there was one coin on the wrong side of the hole. And I didn't realize it was the same guy who was plumb bobbing. Oh my gosh. That is fantastic.
In his defense, I don't know how I don't know anything about plumb bobbing, to be honest. But I thought you had to have the flag stick in the hole. I thought part of it was like you had to hold it up and then the flag stick I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work. And there was no, it was a ghost hole, so there was no flag stick.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
But I digress. So that was a fun day.
Sorry to all the plumb bobbers, but what's really, really interesting is that I did give a lesson to someone who does plumb bob, and I was testing her reads, and it was so funny that she wasn't as far off as I thought she was going to be. Mm-hmm. And, I was standing there, and I was doing it myself, and I asked her to say, okay, can you teach me how to plumb bob? She said, yeah, you just stand here, stand back behind the ball a little bit, hold the putter up. And obviously, if you do it, if you're standing on a side tilt, right, and you hold the putter up, it's going to be angled one way or the other. But that's only giving you the information based off of the slope that you're currently standing on when you're holding up the putter. Again, the ball's not going to be rolling through that. It's irrelevant.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's completely irrelevant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what she was doing was she was reading it really with her eyes, and then she would stand behind the golf ball kind of on the line that her intuition was that she needed to start it, and then she would just hold it up, and so she thought she was plumb bobbing, but in reality she was just reading it with her eyes. So, and even so, like the reads were not as far off as I thought they were going to be. They were way off, but even those who think that they're plumb bobbing oftentimes aren't even like truly plumb bobbing. So it's this is more time than I would ever want to spend on our podcast talking about
the plumb bobbing is over. But it was
we're not talking about that anymore.
It was a great day. 90 minutes is a kind of a perfect amount of time. It's probably like
especially
I don't say the minimal amount of time, but it's a very good amount of time because after an hour and a half of learning, we all start to wane a little bit, even with something new like that. So an hour and a half was really good, and we saw tremendous improvement in the putting. And we had one lady who's just a dear lady, and she said kind of early on to us, and her friends use AimPoint, and she listens to the show. She's a fan of the show, so she's wanted to learn it. And she said, my one hip is kind of higher than the other, so I've tried to do that. My friends have tried to show me a little bit, and I can't quite feel. Or in clinics, we've helped with reading the feet. But I think at the end of the clinic, she had kind of figured it out. Yeah, she was putting great.
Absolutely.
She was nailing the reads, the reads at the end. So people feel it different ways. If you've tried to explore AimPoint on your own, which is great, try to stand on the green and figure out which foot feels heavier or however you do it. Just remember that people do it all different ways, right? Which you tell double amputees have done it, so they're not feeling anything under their feet. I don't really feel it in my feet. I keep saying this over and over again. I think I practice it all the time. I feel it in my hips. I feel it on how my hips settle when I stand. Under my feet, maybe I don't even try to feel it under my feet because my hips are such a good tell for me that I don't.
Yeah.
Some people feel their shoulders. Some people feel other things. So, any epiphanies that you had the other day that you thought was really cool?
Yeah, I think the lag putt was probably my favorite, right? So we put them on probably, I was mostly the one hitting these putts. It was a demonstration mostly, but probably 50 feet, would you say?
Yeah. I would say at least, yeah.
Yeah, across a 7%. All right, so it was a 7% across 50 feet. So how far out were we aiming? What do you think? Probably
15 feet.
15 feet out?
Something like that.
And the group as a whole just had such a hard time believing it until you then roll it and pay attention to where the ball stops. And this is where the feedback really comes in because I hit my first putt well past the hole. But when it stopped, you could actually see how it was essentially in line from my ball through the pin. It was essentially right on the line. So if the ball stops in line with the hole on a lag putt, it shows you essentially read it perfectly. I then took the next ball, and one of the members didn't believe that the ball started where I actually started it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to come behind and actually see where the ball started. And so I putt it, and I putt it much, much softer than the first one. And about 2 or 3 seconds through the ball roll, he says, "No, you started that one left." And so we watch it, and it finally comes to a stop. And this is keep in mind, this is a right to left breaking putt. He thought that I started left. We looked at where the ball stopped. The ball stopped higher. The ball stopped more to the right than the first ball.
Right.
So I actually started it higher than the first ball that I hit well past the hole. But he perceived that I started left. Well, why is that the case? Massively different speeds. Yeah. So the first one started to break. I don't like using the word started to break, but the first one broke more in that kind of from 0 to 30 foot through the putt. It broke more than the first one did, obviously. And he perceived that as a start line difference.
Yeah.
And so that's where if you're paying attention to the feedback and where the ball is stopping, you can really get yourself a chance to make long-term improvements because you're giving yourself accurate feedback. Whereas if you aren't privy to that, again, this gentleman would have hit those putts and thought that he started the ball left, when in reality he would have started it to the right.
Correct.
Right. So it's so tricky in putting. You have to disabuse yourself of it's either good or bad. Right. I've either made it or I missed it. You have to be more curious about the outcome and actually using the information that you're getting from the outcomes to then improve your process going forward. So that was kind of the main thing.
So a couple things about that. Number one, so myths that AimPoint dispels by actually cracking the algorithm that is ball rolling across slope, right? The physics of it, the velocity, the percent slope, friction, gravity. These are the things that factor in. Okay. Number one, the ball does not roll straight to an apex and then roll down a hill. This is still a massively confused thing, right? You don't aim for the apex. The ball doesn't roll straight for 2/3 and then break in the last third.
Right.
If you think these are true, I'm sorry, they're not true. I'm not trying to ruin your belief system, but they're not. The science does not support this. The putt that Robbie was hitting, he was describing, moved left within the first inch off his putter. I was standing and watching it. As soon as he hit it across the 7%, it was moving left. There was no rolling up. And so this notion of A, it rolls straight till the last third and breaks, not true. B, you don't aim for the apex. That isn't a thing you do either. It's this You just have to be able to judge the slope, pick a point. You're not rolling across a point. I'm not saying that either. That's not that's not it either. Okay? It is, I believe this putt I have to aim this putt X distance from the hole on whatever side I'm aiming at, or straight at the hole if it's a straight putt. And then I have to hit it on a certain velocity that will run into the hole, right? That's what we're after. And anything outside of that is not true. It's not. It's just not. And so you can see it that way. You can have some success putting certain ways, great, because there is a lot of feel. There's a lot of human adjustment to putting as well that can be valuable. Yep. But the actual science doesn't support that stuff. So it's always interesting. And what's so cool about having people come and listen to you, because they know that you know what you're talking about, is they're so open to learning. It's like this.
Yeah.
Hey, like they come and they're like, you know what? I have no idea this voodoo that you're about to teach me, but I got my listening ears on and I'm ready to go. and it was so cool. Yeah. Now, in a setting, I told this story, I think. I had a clinic, where it's like they just show up, they have no idea what we're teaching. It's just a ladies' clinic that, we'll teach whatever we want that day kind of thing. And I said, all right, I'm going to teach you all how to just judge right to left with your feet on a putt. That's it. And the one lady looked at me and she goes, I'm not doing that. And she's awesome, by the way. Yeah. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, well, okay. I guess we're not being open to learning today, huh?" She started laughing, and we were laughing, and she was mostly kidding, but she's like, "I'm just never going to do that. I know I'm never going to do it." So I said, "Let's just practice it for a little bit." And within 5 minutes, she was learning which way it was break, just which way, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm going to try it." So that was good. But in a setting where they're coming for AimPoint for 90 minutes and like investing their time and effort that day, everybody was growth minded. It was so cool, very attentive, very locked in, great questions. It was a great day of learning. So on today's episode, that being said, we thought we would discuss some trends and questions, interesting and unique questions we see in our lessons day to day. So not really a topical episode today, but just kind of different little things that we're going to hit on for a few minutes at a time, which will be kind of fun. So I was thinking today, I had some really cool lessons today, actually, and a couple different things came up. But one thing that came up that comes up from time to time is in the bunker. Eric, I'm really struggling with the bunker. Okay. And so we go to the bunker. And they say this happens. They say, I don't know how to get out of the bunker. I have no technique. So I was looking on YouTube and I found this video that showed me that I've got to swing really shallow at it. So I got to drop my hands way down and I got to swing really shallow through it. And what I've determined, and by the way, it doesn't work, by the way. So what I've determined today, that otherwise they weren't coming to see. If it worked, they weren't there to show off to me their new technique, is what I'm saying. They were there to take a lesson to figure out why they can't get it out of the bunker. Could you explain to me the shallow bunker swing and what that means and how it works? Does it work? In your opinion, does it work? Can it work? Is it effective strategy for the folks who play golf occasionally? And is there a better way? Is there a better? I know this is hard to describe on a podcast.
So I think it'd be helpful at first to just define what we're talking about when it comes to steep and shallow, right? Because there's a couple different ways you can think about it. The one that would be the most kind of mainstream that we're talking about would be attack angle. All right, so is the club head at impact moving down or up? Right, so that would be steep or shallow, definition number one. Moving more up, more shallow, moving more down, steeper. And we're just talking about the club head here. Hopefully, the handle of the golf club is moving up and inward some amount. So that's neither here nor there. But understand it's just the club head that we're talking about. The second real way that people talk about steep or shallow is when it comes to the swing plane, quote unquote, of the club head, right? So down around impact, we think about like waist high downswing to waist high follow through. So kind of knee high to knee high. The club head is rotating and swinging with some kind of planar characteristics. That's as close to being planar as a swing ever gets, right? So if you tracked the trajectory of the club head during that time, and you just like Ben Hogan's plane of glass, right? And if you just like shaded in that area under the curve, you would get a plane angle, right? That could be steeper or more upright, or it could be more horizontal or more shallow, right? That would be the second main way that people define steep and shallow. And then the third, right, you can have a very steep club head trajectory, but at impact have a shaft angle or a lie angle that is very shallow. Mm-hmm. So dynamic lie angle at impact could be very flat or it could be very upright. So you can have a very upright lie angle, very steep lie angle with a very shallow club head arc and vice versa.
Yeah, he's talking about the angle of the club shaft. When he says lie angle of the club shaft into the club head. What's that? And that's, I think, people visualize that as the swing plane, right? A lot of times, or they'll call it the shaft plane or whatever. But yeah, to your point, it could be moving down, and it could be in a different. It could be moving down with a shallow shaft. It could be moving up with a steep shaft. In fact, that happens a lot, right? So
totally. And then you have swing direction, right? So you have the overall direction of your swing could be going for a right-handed golfer to the left or to the right. So we've got a lot of things we're going to need to kind of unpack here. Ultimately, in a bunker shot, I think you and I would both agree. And this is something that is very consistent across golf intervention, all three levels. Managing where the bottom of the swing is going to be the most important thing, right? Just to get the quality of strike. In a bunker, we're looking to get just a little bit of sand between the face and the ball, essentially, right? Most golfers, and certainly level 1 and level 2, we're seeing them get either too much or too little as a result of the bottom of the swing being too low or too high, or oftentimes out of a bunker, their margin of error is very, very, very small because the bottom of their swing happens either at or prior to impact.
Right.
And so this is where when you hear, I got to get shallower, if you interpret that as attack angle, I need a really shallow attack angle, that could get you into big, 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 big trouble because you're going to get the bottom of the swing before the golf ball. And then now you can picture this, right? The club head's moving up at impact, adding a ton of loft. That leading edge is way up off the ground, right? You're either going to get a ton of stuff between the face and the ball's not going to get out, or you're going to drop kick it. Like literally club bounces off the ground and up into the ball, and you're going to hit it front edge, and the ball's going to be screaming into the lip or screaming off the green. So in that dimension, we are not shallow out of a bunker at all.
No. And I think that's where we have to be clear about. This is where this type of stuff gets confusing for people when they watch it, right? I found I googled like shallow, bunker shot made easy, shallow swing or something. It was like, and it was this Justin Rose video, fabulous bunker player, right? And he's like, and this is from, I will say, it was from 2010 or so. It was an old video, tons of views, right, from TaylorMade. And it was like, Justin in his very proper British way being like, well, when I get in the bunker, I tend to just be one of my best parts of my game. And this is what I do. I drop the handle down and I get really shallow on it. And I pop it out and I pop it out. I didn't watch the whole thing, but point being, the gentleman, whatever he was watching, and this has happened actually, had, I have a husband and wife. I teach the wife. She's a kind of like, I wouldn't call her a new golfer, but she's more avid at golf now than she used to be, right? She's kind of ramping up into retirement and starting to play more competitive things. And she's a 25 handicap, but cannot get out of the bunker, right? So we go in the bunker and I make her steeper. And then her husband, who's a very good player, says she needs to get more shallow in the bunker. I'm saying, well, and he's like her main coach. I'm like the assistant coach. And it's kind of how it should be. He's a great player. Really. It's like a one handicap, right? And I'm like, well, she can't get out of the bunker because she's too shallow. And
Yep.
so I make her steeper. So in the bunker, I think this is where bunker play gets a little confusing because like I don't think we have to do all these things to just for most
Agreed,
golfers
totally.
to get out. Like we're overcomplicating this.
Yes.
For most every person, you can get close to the ball, understand how to get how to control the low point the way we need to, and kind of just almost hit it like a pitch shot in a way and just hit behind the first touch. Now, if you
Absolutely.
understand if you're using a sand wedge with proper characteristics and that kind of thing, and your setup is good, you got to have a good setup here. The first touch of the sand is behind the ball, but it's still moving down through the shot, and the ball pops out. I mean, a sand wedge is built to be hit really with a square club face. That's the design of the sole. And then you can open it up and play other shots, but you don't have to. And so you can play tons of shots, just square stance,
Yeah.
square club face with a sand wedge, not with the handle forward, though. You got to kind of get the adjustments right here set up. But essentially, it's not that difficult, but it is a steep swing. Okay, that's why I'm getting people close to the ball. It helps steepen the swing plane and the attack angle both at the same time with a square face, which guess what? And a square stance makes the ball go straight. So I'm not aiming left, right, and then opening the face to the right and cutting across it, which most people don't do on their regular swing. And then one time around, they got to go do this in the bunker, and it gets very difficult to control. It's much more in line from a technique standpoint with your regular short game shots. So I think we can overcomplicate this thing sometimes. Overcomplicate it. You can play bunker shots, people. It's not that hard to remember. The golf intervention is
It's
about
a pitch shot.
It's just about who you are, right? It's a slightly adapted pitch shot to the environment, right?
Yep.
That's all it is.
Agreed. The main thing is the ball comes out slower, right? So you're going to need more speed than you would if you were hitting the same length shot off of grass. But you can absolutely do 99% of what you normally do, just with more speed, with no issues. Now, I do want to answer the question about where this is coming from, because it's not coming out of nowhere, right? So the best players in the world, your level 3 golfers, they're prioritizing getting the ball inside 6 feet, like we've said when we miss greens. So they're going to be short side a little bit. So they need to be able to hit a much higher than standard pitch shot out of a bunker, right? So you think about how you would do that. Well, there's only a couple ways to add loft to your club. All right, you can have the handle back at impact, which is not a great idea because of what we said just about 2 minutes earlier because of where the low point is. So we need the low point ahead of the golf ball. So we're not going to lean the handle back. The other main one would be twisting the grip to open the face. So when you do that, when you twist the grip to open the face, the grooves of the club will point some amount to the right. Now, this is where how much you lower the handle, I think, is important, because oftentimes golfers will overdo it. They will perceive that the actual surface area, the loft of the face, points way to the right, just like the grooves do when you open the face. And in reality, it doesn't. It definitely points to the right, for sure, but not as much as it looks like if you're just looking at where the grooves are pointing. This is a tough thing to describe on a podcast, but when that happens, because the ball is launching definitely closer to the path than it would if you're hitting off grass, but the face is absolutely contributing to this start direction. To combat that, you can either get that whole relationship going way left, so like aiming left and cutting way across it, right? That is one way you could try to rectify that. Or you could lower the handle a little bit. And what that does is that actually points the loft then more to the left without changing the grooves or without changing the amount of loft on the club. So really good players have learned that if I open the face, I can hit higher. And if I lower the handle, I can hit it onto target without swinging way left.
Yeah.
Right?
So much more square in the bunker these days than
Yeah.
they used to be, tour players.
Definitely. Now, those level 3 golfers that have learned to adapt where their bottom of the swing is in all of these different environments, handle high, handle low, ball forward, ball back, all this stuff. So they can make these little changes in their setup and still get the bottom of the swing in a very, very functional spot. For our level 1s and 2s, kind of early level 2s, and even into mid-level 2 golfers, as soon as you go off of stock with their setup, it's so much more difficult for them to get the bottom of the swing in a functional place. Mm-hmm. So if I can keep things very, very standard for level 1 and level 2 golfers, I want to try to keep them as standard as I can possibly get, which again, full circle, hey, just go in and hit your normal pitch shot with a little more speed, and you'll be better out of the bunker than where you've been if you haven't been doing that.
I think that was good. And Robbie has promised he's going to do some TrackMan testing in the bunker, which I haven't seen a lot of TrackMan data from bunker shots. So that'll be kind of cool. He'll be testing that out for us, and he will report back.
Yes.
This would be a really geeky episode when we talk about TrackMan data in the bunker. Mm-hmm. Be really fun. But yeah.
That'd be a Substack.
I think a lot of us overcomplicate bunker shots. It's just not that tricky.
Totally agreed.
I was actually trying to hit like standard, like leaning forward handle, ball first contact out of the bunker the other day just to test it out. I never tried it before. I actually hit it.
I love doing that.
I hit it pretty good doing that.
Oh my gosh, you can hit some really high spinners out of the bunker doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key there is the margins are probably a little bit thin on just control, but I could get it out totally fine. I mean, it was...
Oh, absolutely.
It was pretty interesting. I just had never tried that before. Exploration. People play around a little bit. The golf course in the world is your playground. That's how we learn. That's right? So any other trends you're seeing in your lessons, like kind of common themes that have come up recently that would be interesting, interesting for the growth-minded golf intervention listener? Do you want to ruminate on that a little bit while I discuss some? Okay, go ahead.
I got two answers. Number one, Hunter and I just got Smart to Move dual 3D force plates.
Oh wow, fancy pants! Yeah.
Cool. So we're collecting some data. We're learning about how the golfer is interacting with the ground, especially across different levels of player, right? So we're measuring level 1 golfers, we're measuring level 2 golfers, we're measuring level 3 golfers, and we're starting to see some definite patterns on that when it comes to how the golfer is interacting with the ground. And the big one that we're seeing for sure is just the lack of stuff happening before the club starts moving in the backswing for your higher handicap golfers. With your level 3s, they're all having this, what Dr. K talks about, like this little ply step, right? Where the trail foot unweights, you get a little bit of a center of pressure. I call it kind of like a rock forward kind of toward the target. And then that momentum in the club starts to swing back away from the target, right? And that's going to then send the pressure into their trail side. Lead side's going to get lighter, kind of around when the hands pass the right thigh. You're really kind of capturing that energy in the base of that trail foot. And then you're kind of getting up off of the ground, so you're getting lighter, right? All these things that we're seeing with the better players. And, our level 1s and 2 golfers are basically just staying nailed to the floor. Mm-hmm. The pressure's not really moving before the club's moving. They're really just kind of using their hands and arms to kind of lift the club away from the ground and the ball in the early parts of the backswing without any sort of momentum. Very kind of arm, muscle-driven type of backswing is what we're tending to see.
I have some theories on that.
Yeah? What you got?
Okay, so a couple things. Number one, I think that better players move better, typically.
Oh, 100%.
So you're talking about the affordances from your body, right? We've talked about this many times. Like, you can do what you're able to do. Doesn't mean you will do, but you're able to do. And it tends to be that good golfers are pretty good athletes that can move pretty well, right? So they are able to do some things dynamically. Maybe their legs are stronger. There's some stuff that goes on there with lower body action, I think, out of better players for sure. Because they can just do it. More mobility, more strength, more balance, more coordination, that kind of thing. I think that what you also see out of a higher handicap player, it depends on where they are in the golf journey, right? They might be new to the golf journey, and they may be so focused on just the ball, okay? Just striking the ball that they're afraid to move, right? Mm-hmm. Or someone has told them every time they hit a bad shot that they moved their head or they didn't watch the ball, okay? This is a belief that people have because other people tell them, and then they're afraid to move. So they just don't move, right?
Yep.
And then the third piece of that puzzle, I think, with a level 1 golfer is that they may have not played sports that move that way functionally.
Yeah.
I might be a swimmer, or I might have been a diver, or I might have been a runner. And then therefore the way that I interact with the ground to hit the ball might be very different than if I was a baseball player picking up that, or a softball player, or a tennis player, or a lacrosse player, or a soccer player picking up the club and swinging it for the first time. And so, these are reasons why people get stuck in level 1. And we hope to move them through level 1 to level 2, and then hopefully to wherever their golf dreams come true. But I think those are the 3 big reasons why I see, obviously that rigid motion right off the bat. And so I've had Swing Catalyst for 4 years now, and you watch what's happening, the motion, and I think it's really interesting. I'll be interested to see what you think about all of that stuff, Rob Fales, as you collect your data. You and Hunter are very analytical in that way.
Yeah.
So cool. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's great. No, that'd be number one. It's just kind of the organization of the early parts of the backswing, I think, are really the main one. And I completely agree, by the way, on your point. Like, when you look at skill development in general, it's just kind of the process that we go through. Like, when I first learned to snowboard, and I'm still a level 1 snowboarder for sure, but like the very first times getting on snowboard, I was just like lock all of my degrees of freedom, right? So like trying to stay as minimal movement as possible, just to try to keep myself stable on the board, trying to not fall over and hurt myself, right? And you see expert snowboarders right there rhythmically falling over down the mountain, right? And there's nothing that's staying still or nothing that's staying. So it's part of, I think, learning a motor skill is learning that usually there's a rhythm that we need to be able to pick up that creates a level of predictability. And before we learn that rhythm, oftentimes it's just that fear of missing the golf ball, the fear of your perceived failure that kind of keeps you in that kind of like restricted space. Now, I think in golf it's a lot easier because the worst thing that happens is the ball doesn't go where you want. Whereas in skiing and snowboarding, you can
get hurt
yourself seriously, right? So I feel a little bit more justified in my approach to learning to snowboard. But no, I empathize with it and I understand it, and it's just a matter of helping golfers understand the skill is what we manage and train. But the general swing can be free, it can be fast, it can flow, right? There can be a rhythm to this where in all intents and purposes in a golf swing, you are not in balance. You are rhythmically out of balance the entire golf swing. So if someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I just want you to stay in balance," in the sense of not falling over, yes, but the pressure needs to be able to alternate within your feet. You're going to be essentially swinging it off, in that early parts of the backswing. You're pushing off that lead side, getting into the trail side, and then your right side's going to capture that energy. You're going to get up off the floor. Lead foot's going to be light. Trail foot's going to be heavy for a little while, and then you're going to come back down. Lead foot's going to hit, right? It's going to push. You're going to get back up off the floor. That trail foot's going to be. So you're always, it's almost kind of like you're walking, and in that rhythm of walking, it's kind of with the amount of energy like a jog, right? So you just contrast that to, I'm just going to like stand here and move the club with my arms back and forth and try not to miss the ball, right? So there's just a big contrast that we do need to help our golfers learn. So not to get too much into that, but the other big thing would be, and then just stuff that we've talked about all the time with some of the Dr. Pryor stuff, but it's one of those things where once you see it, you can't unsee it. That relationship with outcome. I mean, it is the biggest thing. And I'm trying to get better at asking, my golfers the question when they come and see me is like, okay, well, why are we here today? Are we here to learn, or are we here to perform? Because it's crazy how often you get golfers in front of you who are just trying to please you, trying to look good in front of you, trying to perform in front of you. And you're trying your best to say, hey, look, you have no allegiance to me. Like, you have no you do not have to sit here and impress me or do good by me. Like I am your guide, right? Sean Kennedy says, I'm your sensei, or like, I'm just here to guide and to help. I'm here to help your learning. And learning is failing and then learning from that failure. And so, yeah, I mean, especially as you start to teach more, you start to be better at reading body language, seeing verbal cues, and that's been very helpful in trying to get to the root of the matter. Is a lot of times people aren't swinging freely, they're not swinging in rhythm, they're not able to learn from the feedback just because everything is just totally binary for them. It's like, yep, that was good, or nope, that was bad. And if it was bad, that means that something's wrong with them, right? So just trying to get people away from that mindset as much as possible.
What a really experienced, mature instructor in golf does, I think, and this is probably the same for everything, is that they create, and this I look at like as almost my biggest responsibility as the coach, as the instructor, as the sensei, whatever you want to call it, right? Is to create the environment that's safe for the. We're trying to create an environment that's safe for them to come in and experiment and fail and mess up and grow, right? You don't grow from a place of comfort, and this is why people. This keeps coming up. I would totally agree. I had this conversation today. You don't grow from a place of safety and comfort. Okay, you have to challenge that some. I have video of Robert Carlson from the range on Tuesday of the Champions Tour event, where he is literally hitting top shots and like chunking the ball like it was, and it didn't sweat him at all. He was working on something like it was such an internally focused. It was so internally focused. He never was even looking up at the target. Like he took 3 or 4 swings in a row without looking at a target. That was not his end goal. His goal for the moment was to try to feel something different, right? Yeah. And then experience some outcome and then learn from it and then push forward and eventually put that into the context of his target and his shot and all that.
Yep.
But golfers tend to practice or take, like to your point, sometimes you see in a lesson where they come in and they just want to hit it good. They want to leave saying that they have this feeling of, oh, I hit 10 in a row and I'm really good from the safe thing. What I tell people when they come in is I try to get them really comfortable. You've seen me teach. I try to get them just really comfortable and like, hey, we're going to try some stuff today. Like, it's likely it won't work for a few swings because if we're making change, we're changing the bottom of the arc and you're probably going to miss. Right? Right. So if you miss, that's fine. We'll have the data here on the TrackMan. We'll be able to figure out what's going on. We'll look at a metric. We'll go for it. All this stuff. So one of the things I've seen like in that way recently is people start getting to this time of year and they want to get better. I want to get better for the season, which is awesome. This is the off season. Like off season should be a skill development time for you. This is really post season right now. It's a short little period of time. Weather's waning. We've wrapped up competition and now we're like assessing how we did and trying to make some game plan for the off season. And a lot of that is like, I want to be better next year. I want to be better. Let's make a game plan. Okay, cool. I'm down. And the biggest skill everybody wants is one fold. I want to hit the ball further. Okay, when you work at a country club, people want to hit the ball further. Everybody wants to hit the ball further. But essentially, these are relationships that people have known for 17 years, and they're all 17 years older, as am I. And we want to hit the ball further. And what I say is, you've got to, and I've seen that today, somebody gained 7 miles an hour. 7 miles an hour on their 7-iron by me simply saying, okay, I want you to hit the next one like you don't care where it goes. That was my cue. What do you mean? Well, I don't care if you hit a good one or a bad. This is part of that safety thing. I don't care if you hit a good or a bad one. I want you to just disconnect yourself from hitting a straight good shot and hit it further. Like just swing faster. Hit it further. Swing faster. Yeah. That is not a bad thing. It's not. Swinging faster, it becomes like a derogatory term in golf for some reason. And like almost every lesson, I'm speeding people up. So that tends to be an interesting thing. And
I bet they didn't hit it any more crooked, did
He
they?
hit it dead center solid, 7 miles an hour faster on a 7-iron.
Yeah.
And he hit it, like I showed him on the TrackMan where all his balls were and how much further it had carried. And it was like 12 yards carry further. Like it was, and he hit it on the toe, went dead straight, but it went. And so he hit 6 straight balls, not caring where it goes. He only really mishit one of them. 5 of them went at least 5 yards carry further than any of the other ones he hit before that.
Yeah.
And so he just gained a bunch of distance in 5 minutes with one cue. We're not changing your swing today. I want you to just let go of trying to hit it straight all the time, right?
Yep.
Let go of the outcome a little bit. Don't tie yourself to that value of like, how do I feel about myself if I mishit this thing? Let it go, right? You're going to play much better golf that way. And that's happened a few times this week. It's interesting. People are in that mindset right now, like, I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better.
I think it's where we'll probably get to in the Codebreakers retreat in February, just to plug that.
Plug it a little more. So Codebreakers retreat.
It's Codebreakers retreat, so it's for coaches, PTs, even players. If you're curious, it's going to be held at the Cliffs at Kiwi Springs. Myself, Sean Kennedy, Mark Grace, and Garrett Trissard. It's codebreakersgolf.com.
We'll link that. We'll link that in the show notes today if you want to check it out.
We're going to have Helix Golf Institute, which is Dr. Mike Kay, Tony Greco, and Chris Walke, alongside Dr. Raymond Pryor, who are all going to be there for 2 days. So it's going to be a really, really fun, informative, educational experience that we've hosted. Now, this is our 3rd time. The first 2 were called Doctors, and now we're calling it the retreat. But it's very, very hands-on. So like normal coach education is very much like presentation, next presentation, right? You're just sitting in kind of inside the whole time, not really doing it or applying it yourself. Well, with this, we do like a short presentation, and then we go out and we apply it yourself. So we're really proud of what we're doing, and we're looking forward to it. But I digress. With what Dr. Pryor has taught us, I think it's really important to distinguish between not caring about the outcome and taking away the avoidance-based strategies. So it's not a matter of not caring about the outcome. We deeply care about the outcome, but more from a curiosity standpoint. I can't wait to see what this next outcome is because I get to learn from it. I get to either like celebrate it because it was great, or I get to take that feedback and improve based off of it. So I deeply care about the outcome, but most people, they care about it in this like very sort of transactional relationship. Like the outcome is either going to give me what I want or it's not, right? And so the time where it's not, when the outcome is not giving you what you want, usually they're perceiving that as the outcome is telling me that I'm not who I think I am, right? Which is a deeply, deeply threatening thing. And then your body and your brain, it gets reinforced because, okay, a good person really cares about the outcome. A good person wants to avoid these bad things happening, right? And it's true, but in a thriving setting like golf, it's not really relevant, right? Mm-hmm. So that gets perceived oftentimes as not caring about the outcome. And I think it's important to say, like, no, we do care. We are trying to get the information from it. I think it can feel to a lot of people like you're not caring because you're taking away the avoidance response. So I really actually do like your cue there of like swing as if like you don't care about the outcome. Right? Well, like because really what it's right. You're taking away the avoidance based strategy essentially.
Correct. Yeah. And it's hard to break through when you're constantly controlling, and you've got to let go. And this is why I always say, like, okay, let's look at this metric that we're seeing. Let's try to change it, whatever that might be. In this case, it was just speed in a way, right? Like that was what it was.
100%. Yeah.
And we're going to give it a few swings, and it might be worse, but we don't care. We're just going to see how it. And this is why it's really, really hard to get better on your own. Because you almost need somebody saying like, no, let it go. Oh, you topped it. Like if I'm out there practicing something, let's say I got a tip oh, Robbie, you should do this. Okay, I'm going to go practice it. Or I saw a swing tip, right? Maybe it was even good. Shocking. It could happen. But I'm going to go out and try it. Well, it's almost, to improve at golf, almost nothing immediately is better on the first swing. Like sometimes a grip change or something can do that. But like a lot of times, if we're changing the direction the club is moving either up or down or in or out at the bottom of the arc, the first swing is not likely good, right? Like,
from a skill standpoint, yeah, it's usually like the skill stuff gets a little wonky, but like the thing that you're trying to do, like if you're putting their attention in the right place, like, okay, we're going to make this different swing. We're going to make this, if you're just looking at clubhead speed, like you can see that clubhead speed get better on that first rep.
That's my point, right?
Like,
and so you got TrackMan.
Yeah.
You can see it. I can see it. And I go, no. I know you topped that, but like that was way better. Look.
Yes.
Cool. Let's try it again. Okay. And then you're 3 or 4 swings down the road, and all of a sudden things are starting to come together. You or I might have to coach them up into a little bit of a ball position change or something that is helping them adapt to this movement of the club pattern difference or whatever. Yep. But the point of the matter is, or tee it higher or tee it lower, like these are the things that you and I or the coaches are able to help them make that adjustment. On your own, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard because you just don't know. You just don't know what's happening. And so everything just feels bad. And so you abort. I abort mission. Well, that didn't work. That was terrible. Like that didn't work. And then off I go, right? So this is why coaching is important, in my opinion. We kind of harp on that, but it's important, right? You got to if you're really going to make substantive change, it's really hard to do it on your own. Unless you have a TrackMan and a video and a swing catalyst and you completely understand the golf swing mechanics and 100%. The ball flight laws. Yeah.
And that's what I'm really excited about with us having these force plates is that now when we cue a golfer to move in a different way or swing in a different way, we can prove to them now, like, hey, look, no, you did it. The bottom of your swing arc was this much higher, right?
So you topped it.
the club didn't hit the ball, but let's look at the data. You actually did what you were trying to do. Mm-hmm. And it's starting to train that mindset of like, hey, what I put my attention on is really what I'm giving myself the feedback of. And golfers, when they go and practice, they're giving themselves feedback on the shot, the skill, and the swing. And they're putting their attention on something that isn't relevant to any of the three.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, good luck. Good luck trying to get better.
No, I totally agree. That was good. That was a better discussion than I thought it would be. That was really good.
Yeah.
It was a really good discussion.
Yeah, we caught fire there.
It did catch fire a little bit. That was good. And it's been a really great year of teaching. I taught more lessons this year than any year ever in my life, mainly because I just didn't really take any days off. I just kind of kept working all the time. So it was good because the conversations just were different now with a lot, as you know, now coming to CCV, you realize and recognize like people listen to you, Robbie, like people listen to the show and they have these epiphany moments and they come and communicate them and it's cool because now the show is doing exactly what it was intended to do. And this is why I hope that instructors that listen to the show share it with their students because they can have these conversations like we're getting rewarded with these conversations just the same exact way. Like it's the same exact way. Like it may just be me saying it and then the student hearing it, but if you're having a conversation with a student, like there's plenty of times when they say, hey, Rob said this one thing and I thought that was interesting. And let's talk about that, right? And so it's been really, really meaningful. I don't know if anything's been more impactful on people than Dr. Raymond Pryor. I
know.
It just sets up this mindset of learning and growth that I think...
It's so freeing.
Yeah, I think people didn't realize they needed. It's like I tell you about AimPoint where I said, well, people don't realize how bad they are at reading green, so they don't think it's important. And this is kind of the same thing. Like it's almost like a missing cog where people, when they find it, they go like, wow, I didn't realize I needed that. Mm-hmm. And so if you haven't heard that episode, go find it. Golf Beneath the Surface. I should have the episodes in front of me, but Golf Beneath the Surface with Dr. Raymond Pryor and our Reflections episode, both really interesting, the immediate next episode. But it's really foundational to just improvement, not golf, but improvement in competition and understanding. And I really, really, really cool. I really, really think a lot of what he teaches.
That was, 100%. Yeah, it's like when you see it, you can't unsee it. Like you start to learn like how many things, how many behaviors start to fall in place when your mindset improves.
And I hope that all of us have a better mindset in 2025, which is right around the corner. So Thanksgiving next week. My two older kids are coming home from college, which I'm very excited about.
Nice.
Good to
That's
see
awesome.
them. My daughter's been really doing well.
Crushing it.
She's a Division I debater on one of the top teams, if not the top team in the country. Moved up to varsity.
Nice.
And just had a great fall national championship where they made it through prelims and into the elimination round, and they were fired up in their first varsity tournament as sophomore. So she's doing great. My son's doing great at UVA, and I can't wait to see him. And it's gonna be a good time. You have any plans for Thanksgiving, Rob?
Nope, just hanging out.
Just
enjoying some football, enjoying some good food. It's a great holiday. It's one of my favorite holidays.
In this order: food, football, and family. Just kidding, family. Just kidding.
Yep, absolutely.
Just kidding. So,
yeah.
As always, thank you for tuning in to the Golf Intervention Podcast. If you have a minute, could you like and rate and maybe even write one of those little descriptions about how much you love us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? I don't think you can do that on Spotify, but give us that 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple and write a review. We would highly appreciate if you had a moment to do that. You could do it right now. See that? You got time. Hit pause. Not while you're driving.
Yep.
Do it right now.
Yep.
We appreciate that. I'm proud. We have a perfect 5-star review on every platform that we're on, which is so cool.
Awesome.
And we thank you, the listener, for that. Robbie, we're going to link the Codebreakers retreat information in the show notes this time. So check it out. Robbie and I both are excited about an episode we put out, bonus episode on the Substack. So if you are a Substack exclusive subscriber, which is thegolfintervention.substack.com, which is where we put all of our bonus materials. We did record a bonus video episode on adjustments for lie, wind, and slope. And man, that episode was fire.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of
feedback around that already.
Visualize or kind of picture, if you will, an episode about what all players and caddies talk about before they hit shots. Yep. And that's essentially what that episode is about. Something that most golfers can improve drastically on. So it's a cool episode. Yeah, like listen to it and you'll play better tomorrow. Almost guaranteed.
Correct.
So if you want to be if you want to support the show and be one of our exclusive content subscribers on the Substack, just go to thegolfintervention.substack.com, which we will link in the show notes as well. And we appreciate all of our people that support the show. We it's really, really, really helpful to do that for us. So we appreciate it. And I have absolutely nothing to add to the conversation for the rest of the night. How about you, Rob?
Here we go. I'm good.
You all have a great Thanksgiving, and we will catch you very soon. Thank you.
Cheers.